Hello, I'm Paul, the geriatric gardener, and I've got a special guest with me here in the garden today. I haven't seen him for over 35 years when we used to work together at the pioneer cable channel Screen Sport.
My name's Terry Walsh, and for the last 16 years I've been hosting a gardening programme on BBC Radio Stoke. Because I love gardening. I'm into gardening like Paul is. I love my garden, and it's very much a rustic garden. But one of the things that I've noticed from the gardening programme is that I have a rota of 6 professionals who come on each week, not as a group of 6, but individually come on each week. And what's really fascinating about them is that they don't always agree with one another. They know the science, but they all have favourite plants, or they all have favourite ways of doing things, and it doesn't always go along with what everybody else wants. Say they have their specialisms, but they don't always agree with how to do things. I've got one lady, Carol Adams, who works at Trenton Gardens, and she loves lawns. And yet another one of the experts, Joe Smith, who when he was working full-time, was Director of Parks and Gardens for Stockport Borough Council. Now, he liked gardens at the time, but now he hates lawns, and he has artificial turf. And yet all his life, all his career life, he wanted, he looked after gardens. So it's interesting how, just 2 simple examples about how people who both love gardening but have completely different views about the way they want to go forward.
Terry, I'm now in my 80s and we've got quite a lot of elderly viewers. What advice have you got for the silver surfers?
It's inevitable. What do they say? Death and taxes are the only 2 certain things that are going to be here in life. And as you get older, you aren't as fit and as agile as you used to be. I know that I play squash 3 times a week, but I'm not as fit as I used to be. Another 10 years, I won't be able to get down on my knees the same as I can now. So I think one of the things you do need to think about as you get older is start to think about what you're going to be doing 10 years. Are you still going to be in the garden? Are you still going to be just pottering around doing things? So things you may need to think about, for example, is raised beds. Because if you can't get down to the ground, and it's difficult to kneel on the ground or on a kneeler or whatever, it's going to be much easier if you have a raised bed. You might be in a wheelchair, you might not be in a wheelchair, but you want to be able to sit like I'm sitting and have a raised bed about here, and it's nice to be able to do things like that. So think about things like that. Think about how deep you want your borders to be. Can you reach back if you can't climb onto the edge of the raised bed area? Think about watering. Will you be able to carry watering cans? Will you need a hose? You know, it's all those sort of things that you do need to think about.
As you see, to get some vertical structure into my garden, I've planted some trees. How do you keep them from going too tall or too wide?
One of the issues about trees is they do look great, but they get very tall. Do you want to block out light from your home or not? And do you want to be able to cut them lower or whatever? I mean, for example, I've got silver birches in my garden, and twice I've cut them to at least half the height, and they soon grow again. So what I've done with mine, in my silver birches, is I've made a ball shape on the top of it, and it's no more than 10 feet tall, so at least I can get to the top of it. If I stand on my steps, I can reach the top easily, and I can shape it, and I keep it like that all the time, because say if it's in a ball shape, it still looks good, but it's easy to maintain. I've done the same with that with a holly tree, and I've done the same with 2 laburnum trees in my garden. But the laburnum trees, they're great, they look really good. Lots of yellow hanging down in the right season, but they're not more than 10 feet tall. As I say, if I stand on my step ladder, I can easily reach the top. So 2 things about the laburnum trees, why I keep them that height, is one, in the future I don't want having to be climbing a big ladder to maintain them, and also I don't want them taking away the light from the conservatory. So as I say, keeping them at that sort of height I think is great.
You mentioned there laburnum. Now laburnum is a member of the pea family, and like all peas it carries its seeds in pods. Have you ever tried growing laburnum from seeds, Terry?
It costs nothing to experiment. So I just get a small tray and put them in, put a label in to say what it is, and then just watch. And some come, some don't. But that's one of the things I really do love about gardening, because I put my seeds in. Like I know, for example, I've recently taken some geranium cuttings and I just put those in, and I put them in water. I do. Just put them in a bit of a bottle and wait for the roots to grow.
Well, I'll be sowing some laburnum seeds before long and see if I can get them to germinate. Well, thank you very much, Terry, for all that helpful advice. It's about all we've got time for today, except to remind you to subscribe to the channel so you'll know when my next episode is going online. It'll be all about spring bulbs. So until then, thank you for watching. Bye.